This is Morbid Story Time. I'm your host, Michelle, and here are 5 all but forgotten female murderers. Number 1. Rachel Clark, 1816. Not much is known about this case. She was a servant to the Carruthers family. From Pennsylvania, Rachel killed almost every member of her employer's family. Her employer, Mr. Carruthers, survived the poisoning but was crippled for the rest of his life. Rachel was publicly executed in Carlisle, Pennsylvania in 1816. Her body was claimed by Dr. Geddes. The doctor from Newville, Pennsylvania, had her bones put on wires, and presumably they were left in a box until the day he died. Number 2. Leonarda Cianciulli, a.k.a. the soap maker of Correggio. Leonarda murdered 3 women between 1939 and 1940. She turned them into soap. Yes, soap. And she also turned them into tea cakes. In her official statement to police, she described of one of her victims, "I threw the pieces into a pot, added 7 kilos of caustic acid, and stirred until the whole mixture and pieces dissolved into a thick mush that I poured into several buckets and emptied into a nearby septic tank. As for the blood in the basin, I waited until it coagulated, dried it in the oven, ground it, and mixed it with flour, sugar, chocolate, milk, and eggs, as well as a bit of margarine. Kneading all of the ingredients together, I made lots of crunchy tea cakes and served them to the ladies who came to visit, though Giuseppe and I also ate them." Giuseppe was her son. She had this to say of her last victim: "Her flesh was fat and white when it had melted. I added a bottle of cologne. I was able to make some most acceptable creamy soap. I gave bars to neighbors and acquaintances. The cakes, too, were better. That woman was really sweet." Tea cakes, anyone? Leonarda was sentenced to 30 years in prison and 3 years in a criminal asylum. She later died in 1970 of a cerebral hemorrhage. Number 3. Helen Geisenvogt. At the time, she was America's most notorious baby farmer, killing 53 infants in Manhattan, New York. In her own words, "Babies and animals should be disciplined all the same. When they become unruly, I hold them underwater, or push them in the closets, or bang them. I've trained my children for 20 years that way." The doctor from Newville, Pennsylvania, had her bones put on wires, and presumably they were left in a box until the day he died. Number 4. Alsa Thompson. At age 7, she confessed to poisoning 11 people in February 1925. Already in 8th grade at the time of her arrest, she told police she killed her twin sisters 2 years prior by grounding glass and feeding it to them. Her parents, getting a divorce, placed her and her sister in a foster home. The final straw of her killing spree was when she mixed ant paste and battery acid, then tried to feed it to her foster family. Upon her arrest, she was asked why'd she do it. Her reply was, "I guess I did it because I'm so mean." Nonetheless, she was returned to her father's custody. She lived a long life and passed away at the age of 77 in April 1994. Number 5. Clementine Barnabas, the first African-American female serial killer. She confessed to personally hacking and bashing to death 17 fellow African-Americans from Rayne, Lake Charles, Crowley, and Lafayette, Louisiana. She told the police she killed the babies to keep them from being orphans. 7 entire families, that's 40 victims in all, were murdered, most of which were asleep while being killed by Clementine and her Church of the Sacrifice. The members of her cult were also African American men and women. Many of the victims were mutilated, and some were used in sacrificial black or dark rite, which were acquired from the famous Dr. Joseph Thibodeau from New Iberia. Dr. Thibodeau later confessed to his part. Clementine reportedly yelled at Thibodeau in the courtroom, "Yes, you said I wouldn't be arrested, but you see here, I am in jail." Clementine was sentenced to life in a Louisiana penitentiary. Thanks for watching this edition of Morbid Storytime. Click the like and subscribe button if you enjoyed it, and share with your friends. And stay safe out there in this morbid universe.